YouTube for fiction authors. Is it going to be a waste of your time, or is it a useful way to get more readers? That's what we're going to talk about in this video here. I'm Denny with Weekend Publisher, and let's get started. Okay, so YouTube for fiction authors, useful or a waste of your time. So what I'm going to be covering is, in my really fancy presentation here, is when is it useful and when is it not, aka when is it a waste of your time. But before I get into it, if you are new here, if you just stumbled across this video, make sure you subscribe. I post bi-weekly videos on helping you publish and market your book. And I also do have some coaching to help you find new readers for your book, and the link for that is down below. And let's jump right into it. Okay, so it is useful if, but before I even get really into it, and let me go up here. Not you know what, you already saw it. Never mind. What we're talking about here is purely for fiction authors. Okay, if you're a non-fiction author, or if you have some fiction books and some non-fiction books, this won't necessarily apply to you. Nonfiction is this whole other thing. It is when you create a nonfiction book, you're creating a business. Same with fiction books too, but with nonfiction, you're creating a business. So if you come out with a fiction book on how to cook sausages, it might be useful to create a YouTube channel on showing the lessons that you wrote about in the book. Or at least to supplement some of the lessons that you wrote in the book anyway. But I digress. I just wanted to make that clear that this is just purely for fiction authors. So using YouTube or leveraging the platform of YouTube would be useful for you to communicate with your audience. So as I'll get into shortly, it's not useful to build an audience, it's useful to communicate with your audience. So how do you build your audience? Well, you sell more books, you get more readers, and you get their email addresses. You get them off of Amazon and onto your email list where you control them. You can send them to YouTube, you can send them to other books that you have, you can send them to anywhere once you control them in your email list. Not control them, that sounds... where you're able to communicate with them. That's better. So this is a great way. With a lot of my coaching clients, I do video replies, and that's a great way to add like the extra personal touch, right? That you don't get through just purely writing itself. So it's great to host those videos as a supplement to the emails. Okay, it's also useful to post podcast samples, or I shouldn't even say podcast samples. I should say audiobook samples. That makes more sense. Audiobook samples. YouTube, if it's useful for anything, it's just for hosting basic videos, and you could put that video on your website. Will people stumble across your video on YouTube? Maybe, if you have the right keywords, or I wouldn't count on it to find a cold audience by putting a sample on there. I wouldn't, and it's something that's really not so much in our control either. So it's more useful for the actual hosting side of things. Now you might be wondering, okay, what about posting my entire audiobook on YouTube? And well, let's look at an example. Actually, I was doing some research prior to doing up this very professional presentation in my Word document, and I came across this video here. The Mountains Rise, Embers of... Gosh, how do you pronounce that? Inilia? Anyways, this looks like a fantasy book, and this is on YouTube. So you might be thinking, okay, well, this is a great way to supplement your income because you can monetize your channel. Someone might think that. So we look here at the subscribers. So part of being able to monetize your channel is that you need at least 1,000 subscribers, and I think it's like 5,000 or 4,000 watch time hours. So this has this channel, whoever is hosting this, I'm not sure if it's the author or not, truthfully, but whoever's hosting this only has 828 subscribers, so they're not making a penny off of this. Their channel isn't monetized, and you have to be monetized by YouTube to start earning some ad revenue. So, I mean, I look through here, it doesn't look like there's any like, another way they could have done it is like sell some ad spots and get some sponsors or like affiliate links, and there's nothing in the description either. So I almost want to think that this is a ripped book, like a pirated book, but it's been on there since 2017. I looked up the actual page for the book, the Amazon page. It's doing quite well, 615 ratings. Came out a long time ago, 2014, and there's the audiobook available for purchase on Audible. So it makes me want to think that it's pirated. So if you're thinking, oh, okay, well, I'll put it online and I'll start making some income through AdSense, you can eventually, but certainly it takes a long time to get up to that watch time and to the 1,000 subscribers. Then you have to apply to become monetized. I'm not currently monetized right now. I have another channel as well. That's not monetized yet. But yeah, that's from what I know. Yeah, so it's useful to post the Audiobooks samples. Okay. Lastly, it's useful if you want to host live Q&As, or a lot of people call them AMA, so Ask Me Anything, with your audience. This one, it's useful, yeah, but like every platform has this, right? Like Facebook has this. I'm pretty sure Instagram has this. There's lots of platforms that you could do this with, so it's not super useful for that. All right, so lastly, it is useful to talk about your writing process. This is the last point where it's useful. Talk about your writing process. So talk about how you're writing the book and how you're publishing the book. A lot of times, especially if you're a writer and you're on your 5th, 6th, or more books, you forget about how difficult and how much of a bucket list item this is for a lot of people. Like, how many people say they want to write a book, and how many people actually do it? I don't know the numbers, but I would assume like it's a single digit numbers. It's very, very few. So you can be an inspiration and help guide others through the process as well. The downfall with this is that you're going into like a whole other territory, right? So if you, writing books is a business, which it is, then you're starting this whole other business as well. This is 2 different audiences that you're going to be focused on. One, you're with your books, you're going to be focused on readers. This one, you're going to be focused on inspiring authors. So you're going to be losing focus with your writing. You might potentially spread yourself thin. So there are some issues with that. So it is a waste of time if you don't have the equipment, comfort level, or ability to record and edit your videos. So you might be thinking, well, Denny, your videos aren't that edited, and you're just sitting at a webcam with a simple microphone. And that is very true. If you look at my videos when I first started the channel, they were, especially some of them, it took me all day, an entire day, about 8 to 10 hours to script, record, and edit. And the editing is what really, really takes a long time. So you can either do it yourself, which, there's a fair amount of learning curve, or you can pay someone to do it, which is fairly expensive. So what I recommend, if you were to do it, and what I'm doing right now, is just doing it with very, very minimal editing and just very basic equipment. I have a video camera. You could use your phone even to record, but I'm just using my basic webcam, my microphone. It's what's most easily accessible, and that gets me into the next stage here, or the next waste of time, if you don't plan on sticking with it. So this isn't the type of thing that you do up a couple of videos and then you expect thousands and thousands of views. My other channel, actually, I have 12 videos and I have 24,000 views on all those videos. So I mean, that's sort of an anomaly, but the thing is that you have to stick with it. Okay, so it can't just be, I'm just gonna do a couple of videos. You have to think, okay, I'm gonna stick with it for at least a year. And I know it might be a little bit daunting to be like, okay, well, what's gonna happen in a year? You do need to break it down into steps. But if you don't plan on sticking with it and having that fortitude to continue recording and posting videos, even when nobody is watching, then I wouldn't even bother starting it in the first place. And lastly, it's a waste of time if, and this is the really juicy one, if you want to promote your book to a cold audience. Okay, there are probably thousands of fiction authors that started blogs or YouTube channels, and they're like, okay, well, this is gonna attract so many people, but the thing is, what are you gonna talk about, right? You might be thinking like, oh, I'm gonna talk about the writing process, and again, I go back to that would be useful if, but then you're gonna be spreading your focus on other things when your focus really should be on one thing, and again, one thing right, and that is your books. Okay, so if you want to promote it to a cold audience, YouTube just is not the space, just not the space. So my end thoughts is I generally, for 95% of people that I speak with, 95, probably 99.5% of authors that I speak with, and they're like, okay, well, I want to start a YouTube channel to do it. I'm going to say I don't recommend it for a number of the reasons that I just outlined, unless people are really, really, really keen on doing it. Because I never want to squash someone's inspiration, or if someone really, really wants to do something, then do it. You never know where that's going to lead you. So the YouTube channel might lead you to this other thing, or it might lead you to this other thing, or you might be comfortable more speaking in front of a camera or speaking in front of other people, and that will lead you to speaking gigs to talk about your book, and it could lead you to a bunch of different things. So if you really, really are keen on doing it, I would say go for it. But for the vast population, for the vast number of fiction authors that I work with, I do not recommend it. So again, I've been Denis with Weekend Publisher. Let me know your thoughts by commenting down below. Have you come across a fiction book author created a channel talking purely about their book? How was it? Do you plan on creating a YouTube channel yourself? If so, when did you start, or when are you going to start? Let me know, and I'll catch you in the next one.